Hi folks, it's John Nizman from lastchanceautorestore.com, and today we're going to do an update on Code Red, which is a Mustang Fastback Shelby Tribute car. So we've done quite a bit of work on it, so what I'd like to do is just pause this section of the video to show you what the car looked like when we had everything dry fitted on the front end. So basically we set the supercharged 2013 Shelby motor and transmission into the engine bay. We had the Heights front suspension all dry fitted in, and then we modified all of the panels in the Shelby front nose and the Shelby hood. So we dry fitted it all on. So I'm going to pause right here to show you what it looked like with the front nose dry fitted in place. Okay, so now that you see the picture, or has seen the picture of the front end, we had now removed the bumper brackets, the front nose, the fenders, and so on, because now it's the next stage of the dry fitting on this Shelby Tribute car. So as we come down the driver's side, you can see we now have the fenders off, the hood, and so on, and we've pulled the engine and transmission out. So now it gives you a better visual of the amount of modification and changes that we have to make for the driveline, braking, and suspension to be ideal for this Tribute car. So basically, you can see the firewall right now is completely gone. So we're going to be changing how it looks in terms of flush and clean instead of having ribs. So this gives you a really nice view of the upgraded Heights front independent suspension. So we have the Heights beam, and we have all of the suspension components and the engine mounts and the power steering and so on. So kind of like a version of the Mustang 2 front section. So basically it looks quite nasty right now because we're doing all the modifications and the rough welding. And then once we have all the welding in place, then we'll be grinding all of these plates smooth, and we'll be refinishing this, and it's going to be body color like the car. So with the suspension all in place, you can see through the front. We've totally modified the front tunnel, and because of structural strength and rigidity, we're using roughly twice the thickness of metal, and we built a custom tunnel, which I'll share with you as we go down the driver's side and look at the view of the inside. So you can see in earlier pictures, we've already done the torque boxes and subframes and so on when it was on the rotisserie. And then we dry fitted the drive line and made a lot of changes and adjustments. So now this is basically the final mock-up of the fabrication, where we're making the custom firewall. We're going to continue to finish the custom tunnel. We're going to do it in such a way that we'll have access later, which a lot of people don't think about. Once this custom build is done, and you have a supercharged engine out of a 2013 Shelby, and you have a manual transmission, there's going to be wearable parts or wearable items. One of the things we're going to be concerned about on this beautiful car is someday someone's going to have to replace the clutch because it's going to get worn or worn down. Most people don't think of how are they going to go about doing that. So we've made provisions, or going to be making provisions for this car through the tunnel on the inside. So as we come this way, if we look through the driver's side, I'll just move the door out of the way a little bit here. So you can see the tunnel. We've totally modified the tunnel, and we have the location of the shifter is totally different than it was in 67 and 68. So with this tunnel modified from basically between the two seats to the front, once we have the custom firewall in place, we are going to make a special plate in the front of that tunnel where it meets the firewall so that it's going to be removable. So we're going to weld speed nuts in behind, and we're going to have really nice hardware that will be able to unbolt and remove that inspection cover or plate. And that will give us access to all of the bolts that they will need to have access to separate the transmission from the engine. So it's going to make things a lot easier somewhere down the road when, not if, our client is going to have to replace the clutch in this car. So it's one of the many things that we plan when you're doing a custom build here at Last Chance Auto Store. One thing to get the style and the modifications and the steering and the brakes and the power and also the comfort. But then the next step is you have to think ahead in terms of maintenance. You have to be able to access the oil filter, all of the plugs and servicing. And one of the things you want to make sure is the clutch disc, because they're wearable items. So with this setup, with the height suspension in the front, heights in the rear, with that access panel, they'll be able to separate the engine and transmission. So basically they'll just pull the drive shaft out, drop the transmission, because we have a custom mount that we made for the rear of the transmission assembly. So it will lower at the bottom, and then they'll pull the transmission out through the bottom. If we did not do that, in the video or in the picture that you saw earlier, this would have the total Shelby front nose and fiberglass fittings. What that would mean to have access to that, if we didn't do it this way in the firewall, is someone would have to remove all of the bodywork first. So you'd have to remove the bumper, all of the bumper brackets, both of the grills, and then total disassembly of the front nose and pull it off of the car, and then you have to pull the engine and transmission out through the front. And that to us is extremely excessive for something that can be done through the bottom. So I just wanted to share with you, basically it's an update on the car, but also it's part of the planning when we do custom build here at lastchanceautostore.com. So I thank you for watching.